seems impossible to miss the irony of having to rearrange discussion of a new global warming agency because of the second D.C. blizzard in less than a week. But our crack Department of Commerce is busily rearranging schedules of members of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration who are hosting the event and are trying to be as straight-faced as possible about the timing of their announcement. Unfortunately for them, they put out a release before Snowmageddon. The administration says, quote, more and more Americans are witnessing the impact of climate change in their own backyards, including sea level rise, longer growing seasons, increases in heavy downpours, earlier snow melt, and extended ice-free seasons in our waters. People are now searching for relevant and timely information about these changes. Earlier snow melt, that would be nice today. Climate change skeptic Senator James Inhofe joins us now with reaction. You know, you have to laugh, Senator, don't you?
Yeah, I am laughing, David. It's nice to be back with you. But in addition to that, the global warming hearing that Barbara Boxer was going to have tomorrow has now been canceled because of the blizzard. So
it's almost too easy.
Well, you know, David, at Copenhagen, the same thing. They were setting records over there, and, you know, everyone's kind of joking around about it. But no, now they have to have a new bureaucracy. I guess that's going to... I'm not too surprised.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm wondering why they just don't plan these events in August. I mean, just forget about having anything in the wintertime, taking the chance of this happening. But seriously, what does this do to any proposal now concerning climate change or, more specifically, global warming?
Well, before this happened, David, the whole reason I went over to Copenhagen was because they had Senator John Kerry and they had Hillary Clinton, they had Nancy Pelosi, and they had the president trying to make them believe that we were going to do something over here in passing cap-and-trade legislation. I went over there to make sure they knew we were not, because 191 countries would have gone back and said America has agreed to do this. So that was already done. I mean, that was the fait accompli at that time. Now, the irony of this is that right before that hearing, they had ClimateGate. And that's when they discovered through these emails that were blogs that were released, we still don't know how they got there, just completely taking every argument they had and diffusing it. Now we have not just ClimateGate, where they've manipulated the data, they've deleted all kinds of information that wasn't in keeping with what they wanted. Now we have GlacierGate, AmazonGate, AfricaGate.
There are all these gates revolving global warming. But the bottom line is that all of the projections that have been made by the UN committee, the IPCC, have turned out to be wrong, whether they're projections made by individuals or by computers. Therefore, we shouldn't be basing trillion-dollar legislation on incorrect computer models.
It's worse than that, David, because they're also basing an endangerment finding so that those things that they can't do legislatively, they're going to try to do through the Clean Air Act. That means that, and we have, by their own admission, all of the science comes from the IPCC. Well, that's the United Nations. They're the ones who started all of this stuff back in 1988. They've been, everything that they've come out with has been pretty much refuted, and yet all the science is based on what IPCC does. That's why I think in this endangerment finding, it's not going to stand up to the court test.
Well, we're going to get to IPCC in a second, but first of all, I'm just wondering how politically tone-deaf the administration is on this particular issue. When you look at the top priorities of Americans for 2010, you have economy, 83% view it as a top economy. You go down the list of about 20 different subjects. At the very bottom is global warming at 28%. So, I mean, the American public not only doesn't want it, but they're not interested.
The Barbara Boxers and the John Kerrys and the Obamas are in denial. They just can't believe that their poster child is gone. And so they don't want to believe it. They're still scheduling hearings, and yet they don't have anywhere close to the votes. In the Senate today, in my opinion, they don't have as many as 20 votes, and they need 60 votes to pass a cap-and-trade bill. So all I can say is they're in denial.
What about the UN, though? Because the UN has its own jurisdictions. That's part of its problem, by the way. They're like a kid alone in a candy shop. And you have this guy, Rajendra Pachauri, who is the leader of the IPCC, the Climate Gate. He, by the way, is making a ton of money off of grants from various institutions, and I imagine from the U.S. government as well, because of his incorrect research. What do you do with a guy like this?
Well, first of all, he is now, they've suggested that he be relieved of his duties, and that is a process that's going on right now. Just like the Michael Mann investigation, the Phil Jones investigation, everyone's investigating everyone and trying to, distance themselves. So I don't know what's going to happen to him. I just know that the United Nations, who has been trying for years, as you well know, to get out from under anyone's jurisdiction, including the United States, perhaps this would have been their answer, to have some kind of a big global funding mechanism for global warming, and by the way, also United Nations.
And
I think they've got a serious problem now.
What bothers me, Senator, is it's not just the money. Thankfully, it seems like cap and trade won't pass this year. I'm glad about that. But we've already spent billions and billions and billions of dollars. We did in the Bush administration, and we're currently doing so right now. Can we cut off any further monies, federal monies, being spent for this?
No, I think we can try. Of course, I've been trying to do that now for about 7 years, and it's very difficult to do because up until recently, they had the votes to keep that thing going. We're going to make another effort at that to see if, now that people and the public isn't behind it, people have pretty much diffused this issue. I think it's time to do that. Keep in mind, every year the United Nations has this big party. This year it was in Copenhagen. This is very expensive, and a lot of the third world countries, David, they go to this thing thinking they're going to be getting money when they arrive. And so this is a huge expense, and we, by the way, are paying for 25% of it.
Senator James Inhofe, great to see you again, Senator. Keep up the good fight. We appreciate you being there. Well, we want to know what you think. The new Climate Control Agency. Is it a buy, is it a sell, or is it a hold? Text your answer to 369-249. Your answer's coming right up.